The trial of Kyle Rittenhouse has entered its second week. Until today, the highlight of the trial had been the testimony of Daily Caller reporter Richie McGinnis, who captured critical video of the night Rittenhouse shot three people. McGinnis testified that Joseph Rosenbaum, one of the men killed by Rittenhouse, chased and lunged at the teenager before he fired his gun. Take a look.
And you've already established that after the shooting, Mr. Rosenbaum never says a word, correct?
Correct.
You don't know, as you sit here today, what Mr. Rosenbaum was thinking, do you?
You mean at the time of the shooting?
Yes. Or at any point in his life. I mean, you have no idea what Mr. Rosenbaum was ever thinking at any point in his life. You have never been inside his head. You never met him before. You don't know.
I've never exchanged words with him, if that's what your question is.
So your interpretation of what he was trying to do or what he was intending to do or anything along those lines is complete guesswork, isn't it?
Well, he said, "F you," and then he reached for the weapon.
Yeah. The case against Rittenhouse also took a major hit this afternoon when one of the prosecution's key witnesses admitted to pointing a pistol at Rittenhouse before being shot. Joining me to break this down is Will Chamberlain, attorney and co-publisher of Human Events. Will, good to see you.
Great to be with you, Buck.
I mean, first, before we get to the big bombshell today, we'll hold this for a second. I just wanted to have you react to the prosecutor there with the, well, you have no idea what he's thinking, and the guy saying, well, I kind of do. In essence, what do you make of it?
I think, there's two big prosecutorial mistakes. One is being too tricky and technical, right? The difference between what you saw and what exactly you knew. I mean, in common parlance, when you say that you knew something, it doesn't mean that. Like in common parlance, when you say somebody's intentions, you can just base that on what they're doing. And then the second mistake is asking one too many questions, right? Like if he had just established that he hadn't been inside, inside Rosenbaum's head, then that would be enough. He did not need to ask the next question. But then when he went on to saying, so what you think is complete guesswork, then that's when he gets the slam dunk in his face. So I think the prosecutor just made the classic, he's effectively cross-examining his own witness, which is another bad thing that you don't want to be doing. But he made the classic mistake on cross, asking one too many questions.
Now, speaking of slam dunk situations, this one got a lot of attention today. This is Gage Grosskreutz, who was one of the Antifa lunatics who was running around during this, who got shot in the arm by Kyle Rittenhouse. He had quite an admission today. Let's watch.
With your arms up in the air, he never fired, right?
Correct.
It wasn't until you pointed your gun at him, advanced on him, with your gun, now your hands down, pointed at him, that he fired, right?
Correct.
I mean, I'm not a lawyer. You are. That's why we have you on here, Will. But I do know something about use of force, and I also feel like when you have a gun and someone points a gun at you, it's pretty clear self-defense, if there is such a thing as self-defense. But take me through the legalese here.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're allowed to use deadly force in self-defense if you reasonably perceive that someone is about to use deadly force against you. Mr. Grosskreitz's testimony would indicate that there isn't any remaining question about whether Rittenhouse would have thought he was facing deadly force, since at the moment Rittenhouse shot, Mr. Grosskreutz was pointing a gun at him. That would seem to end it. And any real, I mean, honestly, I think the proper result of at least the count with regard to Grosskreutz, right? I mean, Rittenhouse is charged with shooting him in the arm. The proper result of that is what's called a directed verdict, where the defense doesn't even need to present their case. The judge says, as a matter of law, Rittenhouse is not guilty because the testimony presented by the prosecution is sufficient to demonstrate that.